The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with worried voices. 7 different alien species sat around the massive round table that had been used for peace talks for over 3,000 years. Each species looked very different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like walking crystals that sparkled under the bright lights. Ambassador HFY stood up slowly. His crystal body made small ringing sounds as he moved. The other council members became quiet and turned to look at him. HFY was old, even by his people's standards. He had lived for over 800 years and had heard many stories that others had forgotten. "My friends," HFY began, his voice making the air vibrate in a strange, "I must tell you about something that worries me deeply. Our scouts have found strange things at the edge of our space, things that should not exist." Commander Veltar of the warrior Kazakh species leaned forward, his forearms crossed over his chest. "What kind of things, Old Crystal? Speak clearly." HFY's body flickered with nervous light. "Ships. Ships that use technology we do not understand. Ships that move in ways that break the laws of physics as we know them." The council chamber erupted in concerned chatter. Dr. Nixara, the chief scientist of the peaceful Morvian people, stood up with her 6 tentacles waving in the air. "That is impossible. We have studied every known species in this galaxy. There are no others with such advanced technology." "Perhaps," HFY said quietly. "They are not from this galaxy." The room fell silent. The idea of aliens from another galaxy was something that had never been seriously considered. It seemed too dangerous to even think about. Scholar Vex Morin, the smartest of the Krillian species, made a dismissive sound with his breathing tubes. "You speak of fairy tales, Ambassador. There are no mysterious aliens with magical technology. What you describe sounds like the old myths our grandparents used to tell children." HFY's crystal body glowed brighter. "Ah, but that is exactly what I wanted to discuss. The old myths. The stories about the Terrans." Every being in the room became very still. The name Terrans was something from the oldest stories. Tales that were so old that most people thought they were just made up to entertain children or teach lessons about being careful. "You cannot be serious," Dr. Nixara said, her voice shaking slightly. "The Terran myths are just stories. They describe creatures that could never exist in reality." HFY began to pace around the table, his crystal feet clicking on the metal floor. "Let me remind you what the old stories say about these Terrans. They were said to be bipedal like the Kazakh, but with only 2 arms instead of 4. They had only 2 eyes like the primitive Zelok, but with intelligence that could match our greatest minds." Commander Veltar snorted. "Impossible. 2 arms are not enough for complex tasks. Any species with such a limitation would have died, out long ago." "The stories say more," HFY continued. "They say Terrans could survive in environments that would kill most of us. They breathed a gas that was poison to many species. They ate both plants and other animals which our biologists say should have made their digestive systems too complicated to work properly." Scholar Vex Morin waved his tentacles in annoyance. "These are the exact reasons why we know the Terran myths are fiction. Evolution does not work that way. A species cannot be both strong and weak, both logical and emotional, both peaceful and warlike. These contradictions prove the stories are made up." But HFY was not finished. "The myths also say that Terrans were master builders and inventors. They could create machines that worked in impossible ways. They could fight wars that lasted for years, yet they could also show kindness to their enemies. They could work together in large groups, but each individual could think and act independently." Dr. Nixara made a sound of frustration. "Ambassador, you are describing a species that violates every rule of biology and psychology we know. Such creatures could not exist. Their own nature would tear them apart." Far away from the council chamber, at the very edge of known space, Captain Jake Murphy stood on the bridge of his ship. The EFS Liberty was humanity's first attempt at deep space exploration beyond their own solar system. It had taken them 50 years to develop the technology to travel this far, and another 20 years to build the courage to actually make the journey. "Captain," said Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez from his position at the communications station, We're picking up more of those transmissions. The translation computer is getting better at understanding their language. Captain Murphy walked over to look at the data on Sam's screen. What are they talking about now? It's strange, sir. They seem to be discussing whether or not we exist. They keep using a word that the computer translates as myth or legend when they talk about humans. Dr. Helen Carter, the ship's chief medical officer, looked up from her research station. That's actually quite logical from their perspective. Think about it. We've been watching them for months, but we haven't made contact. To them, we would seem like ghost stories. Chief Engineer Nina Walsh joined the conversation from her position near the engine controls. The interesting thing is how scared they seem. From what I can understand of their biology scans, we should be the ones who are scared. Some of those species are incredibly advanced. Captain Murphy nodded thoughtfully. But they don't understand us. That might be our advantage. Communications. Officer Beth Collins, who had been quietly listening to the alien transmissions, suddenly looked up with excitement. Captain, I think I know why they're so confused about us. According to their conversation, they have legends about humans that are thousands of years old, but they think we're impossible creatures that can't really exist. What do these legends say about us? Dr. Carter asked with curiosity. Beth scrolled through her translation notes. Well, they think we're too contradictory to be real. They say we're described as beings who can be both gentle and violent, both smart and emotional, both cooperative and independent. They think these traits can't exist in the same species. Lieutenant Rodriguez laughed. They've obviously never met any actual humans. Captain Murphy smiled, but his expression quickly became serious. The question is, what do we do now? Do we make contact, or do we continue to observe? Dr. Carter stood up and walked to the main view screen, which showed the distant lights of the alien space station. I think we have to make contact eventually. The question is whether we're ready for what might happen when we do. Nina Walsh checked her engineering displays. The ship is ready, Captain. All systems are working perfectly. If we need to leave quickly, we can. And if we need to defend ourselves? Captain Murphy asked. We have weapons, but nothing compared to what these aliens probably have. Our advantage would have to be surprise and the fact that they don't understand how we think. Captain Murphy made his decision. Set course for their space station. It's time to turn myth into reality. The EFS Liberty began moving toward the Galactic Council's territory, carrying 50 humans who were about to change the galaxy forever. Behind them, Earth waited for news of first contact. Ahead of them, an entire galactic civilization was about to discover that their oldest legends were not just stories but warnings about the future. 3 days after the council meeting, the impossible happened. The sensors at Nexus Station, the biggest diplomatic center in known space, started screaming warnings that no one understood. Security Chief Grixnall rushed to the main control room, his scaled feet clicking rapidly on the metal floor. What is happening? He demanded, looking at the displays that showed energy readings unlike anything in their databases. Technician Yup Ara, a small, furry creature with large eyes, pointed at the main screen with a trembling paw. Sir, there is a ship approaching, but it does not match any known design in our records. Show me, Grixnall ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a vessel that looked strange and primitive compared to the sleek, curved ships that the galactic species normally built. This ship had hard angles and flat surfaces. It looked like it was built for function rather than beauty. Run a full scan, Grixnall said, trying to keep his voice calm. I want to know everything about that vessel. The scanning results made no sense. The ship was much smaller than any vessel capable of interstellar travel should be. Its engines produced energy in a way that their scientists said was impossible. Most confusing of all, it contained life forms that registered as completely unknown. Captain Jake Murphy stood on the bridge of the EFS Liberty, watching the massive alien space station grow larger on his screen. The station was beautiful in a way that human engineering had never achieved. It looked like a crystal flower blooming in the darkness of space. Captain, said Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez, they're scanning us pretty thoroughly. Should we raise shields? No, Captain Murphy replied. "We came here to make contact, not to start a fight. Let them look." Dr. Helen Carter was studying her own instruments, which were detecting the various alien species on the station. "This is incredible," she said with excitement. "I'm reading at least 7 different biological signatures. Some of them are completely unlike anything we've ever imagined." Communications Officer Beth Collins looked up from her station. "Captain, they're trying to communicate with us. The signal is very complex, but I think I can establish a translation protocol." "Do it," Captain Murphy said. "But be careful. We don't want to accidentally say something that could be taken as hostile." On Nexus Station, Ambassador Zexhai had been called to the emergency session. When he arrived at the command center, he found chaos. Council members from all 7 species were arguing loudly about what to do with the mysterious ship. "We should demand they leave immediately," Commander Veltar was saying, his forearms waving aggressively. "Any unknown vessel is a potential threat." Dr. Nixara disagreed. "We should try to communicate first. Perhaps they are refugees from some disaster we have not heard about." Scholar Vex Morin was studying the scanning data with intense concentration. "These readings make no sense," he muttered. "The life forms on that ship show biological patterns that should not be possible." Zexhai felt a chill run through his crystal body. "What kind of patterns? They appear to be carbon-based like the Morvians, but they process oxygen in their atmosphere instead of methane. They have internal skeletal structures like the Kazakh, but only 2 arms and 2 legs. Most strange of all, they show brain activity that suggests both logical and emotional thinking at the same time." The room became very quiet. Everyone knew what those characteristics matched. "Show me the visual scan," Zexhai said quietly. The main screen changed to show the interior of the human ship. For the first time in galactic history, the council members were looking at actual living humans. The creatures they saw were exactly as the ancient myths described. They walked on 2 legs, had 2 arms, and possessed only 2 eyes. They appeared fragile compared to most galactic species, yet they moved with confidence and purpose. "By the ancient void," whispered Dr. Nixara. "They are real." Captain Murphy received the translation that his communications officer had been working on. The aliens were asking who they were and what they wanted. He took a deep breath and prepared to make the most important announcement in human history. "This is Captain Jake Murphy of the Earth Federation ship Liberty," he said clearly. "We represent the human species from the planet Earth. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic contact with your Galactic Council." The transmission reached Nexus Station and was immediately translated into all 7 galactic languages. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Several council members fell silent in shock. Others began talking all at once. Commander Veltar actually took a step backward, as if the words themselves were dangerous. "They said human," Scholar Vex Morin said in a voice that was barely a whisper. "They called themselves human." Ambassador Zexhai felt his crystal body begin to dim with worry. The myths were real. The impossible species actually existed, but what did that mean for the galaxy? "We must respond," Dr. Nixara said, though her voice was shaking. "We cannot simply ignore them." "What do we say to a myth that has come to life?" Commander Veltar asked. Back on the Liberty, the crew was waiting for a response. The silence stretched on for several minutes, which made everyone nervous. "Maybe they didn't understand our message," suggested Chief Engineer Nina Walsh. "Or maybe they did understand it, and that's the problem," Dr. Carter replied. Finally, a response came through. The voice that spoke was clearly artificial, coming from a translation computer, but the words were clear. "Human vessel, this is Nexus Station of the Galactic Council. We have received your message. We request permission to send a small diplomatic party to your ship for face-to-face contact." Captain Murphy looked around at his crew. This was the moment they had prepared for, but now that it was here, it felt overwhelming. "Permission granted," he replied. "We will prepare to receive your diplomatic party." 2 hours later, a small alien shuttle approached the Liberty. On board were 3 representatives: Ambassador Zexhai, Dr. Nixara, and Scholar Vex Morin. Each was nervous in their own way, but they were also excited. They were about to meet creatures from the oldest stories their civilizations remembered. The docking procedure went smoothly, and soon the three aliens were standing in the Liberty's main meeting room. Across from them sat Captain Murphy, Dr. Carter, and Lieutenant Rodriguez. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Myth was meeting reality, and neither side knew quite what to say. Finally, Captain Murphy broke the silence. "Welcome aboard the Liberty. I know this must be strange for you. We've been listening to your communications for some time, and we understand that you thought we were just legends." Ambassador Zexhi's crystal body flickered with nervous energy. "The question that troubles us most is this. If the myths about humans are true, what does that mean for the rest of the galaxy?" Dr. Carter leaned forward with a gentle smile. "I think it means that the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place." The first meeting between humans and the Galactic Council had begun. Neither side yet realized how much their universe was about to change. The emergency meeting had been going on for 6 hours. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with worried voices as representatives from all 7 species tried to understand what the humans meant for their future. Captain Murphy and his diplomatic team sat at a specially built table since human furniture did not exist on the station. "We have studied your ship," Scholar Vex Morin said, his tentacles waving nervously. "Your technology makes no sense to us. You achieve faster than light travel using methods that our physics say should not work." Chief Engineer Nina Walsh smiled politely. "We would be happy to share our technical knowledge with your scientists. Perhaps we can learn from each other." "Doctor," Nixara leaned forward, her 6 arms folded carefully. "That is exactly what worries us. In our experience, species that offer to share technology usually want something in return. What we want is simple," Captain Murphy said. "We want to be part of the galactic community. We want to trade, to learn, and to help where we can." Commander Veltar made a sound that the translator identified as laughter, but it did not sound friendly. Help? What could a single ship with 50 beings possibly do to help a civilization of trillions? Before anyone could answer, the station's alarm system began to sound. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber, and an automated voice announced, "An emergency in the universal galactic language." Security Chief Grixnall burst into the chamber, his scales showing the dark colors that meant extreme fear. "Council members, we have a critical situation. Long-range sensors have detected the Scourge." The effect on the council was immediate and dramatic. Several members stood up so quickly that their chairs fell over. Others began making sounds of panic in their own languages. The humans looked confused, not understanding what the Scourge was. "How many ships?" Ambassador Zexhi asked, his crystal body flickering rapidly. "Initial count shows over 200 biovessels," Grixnall reported. "They will reach the outer colonies in less than 10 days. Dr. Carter turned to Captain Murphy. "What is the Scourge?" It was Dr. Nixara who answered, her voice filled with terror. "The Scourge is a species that consumes everything in its path. They are insects that work as a single mind. They eat entire planets and use the materials to build more ships and more soldiers. We have fought them before," Commander Veltar added. "They destroyed 17 star systems before we could stop them. That was 50 years ago. We thought they were gone." Captain Murphy stood up. "What kind of military response are you planning?" Scholar Vex Morin looked at him with surprise. "Military response? We have no military. The Galactic Council has maintained peace for over 1,000 years. We have some defense ships, but they are not designed for warfare." "Then how did you stop them before?" Lieutenant Rodriguez asked. "We used our entire fleet," Ambassador Zexhi explained. "Every ship from every species. We surrounded them and destroyed them through sheer numbers. But it cost us millions of lives and hundreds of vessels." The humans looked at each other. Captain Murphy made a decision that would change galactic history. "We will help you fight them," he said simply. The council chamber fell silent. Commander Veltar was the first to speak. "You have one small ship and 50 people. The Scourge has hundreds of biovessels and millions of soldiers. What can you possibly do?" "More than you might think," Captain Murphy replied. But first, we need to contact Earth. We will need reinforcements. 3 days later, the impossible happened again. 12 human ships arrived at Nexus Station, led by Admiral Kate Johnson aboard the EFS Defiance. The human fleet was tiny compared to the hundreds of Council vessels that had been assembled. But there was something different about the human ships. They moved with purpose and precision that the aliens had never seen before. Admiral Johnson met with the Council's military commanders in the main strategic planning center. The room was filled with holographic displays showing the approaching Scourge fleet. Your battle plans are very traditional, Admiral Johnson observed after studying the Council's strategy. You plan to meet them head-on with superior numbers. General Mextara of the Kazakh military forces nodded. It is the only way that has worked before. We surround them and destroy them with overwhelming firepower. That strategy will work, Admiral Johnson agreed. But it will cost you thousands of ships and millions of lives. We have a better idea. She activated a human tactical display that showed a completely different approach. Instead of meeting the Scourge directly, the human plan called for hit and run, attacks, psychological warfare, and tactics that seemed to make no sense to the alien commanders. This is not how civilized species fight wars, General Mextara said with disapproval. Colonel Ryan Brooks, the human Marine commander, stepped forward. With respect, General, the Scourge are not civilized. They are a hive mind that consumes everything. Fighting them with honor and tradition will only get your people killed. The debate continued for hours. The Council's military leaders wanted to stick with proven tactics. The humans insisted that unconventional methods would save lives and be more effective. Finally, Admiral Johnson made a proposal. Let us prove our methods work. Give us a small portion of your fleet to work with. If our tactics fail, we will support your traditional approach. The compromise was reached. The humans would lead a force of 50 Council ships in a preliminary attack, while the main fleet prepared for a traditional battle. Commander Lisa Hayes, now in charge of the EFS Vanguard, led the mixed human-alien fleet toward the Scourge's advanced scouts. The alien captains were nervous about following human battle plans that seemed to ignore every rule of proper warfare. Human ships, you are moving too close to the enemy, warned Captain Kulvera of the Crystalline Defense Force. You will be destroyed. Trust us, Commander Hayes replied calmly. We know what we are doing. The battle that followed shocked the watching Council forces. The human ships moved in ways that seemed impossible, using the alien vessels as shields and distractions, while striking at the Scourge from unexpected angles. Chief Petty Officer Danny West piloted his fighter directly into a Scourge bioship, destroying it from the inside. Marine Sergeant Amy Foster led boarding parties that fought the Scourge soldiers in brutal close combat. The aliens watching the battle were horrified by the violence, but they could not argue with the results. In 6 hours, the human-led force had destroyed the entire Scourge advance guard without losing a single ship. The Council's military commanders could not believe what they had witnessed. How is this possible? General Mextara asked Admiral Johnson. We fight to win, Admiral Johnson replied simply. We do not fight to look good or to follow rules. We fight to protect what we care about. The main Scourge fleet was still approaching, but now the Council had hope. The mythical humans had proven that they were exactly what the galaxy needed. The impossible had become possible, and the real war was about to begin. Dr. Frank Thompson, the fleet's psychologist, was already working with Council scientists to develop new weapons based on human understanding of fear and confusion. The Scourge was about to face an enemy unlike anything they had encountered before. The galaxy was about to learn what humans meant when they said they would help. 6 months after the great battle with the Scourge, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Human advisors sat beside alien representatives, and the conversations had changed from fearful whispers to excited planning for the future. Ambassador Zexhai stood before the assembled council, his crystal body glowing with satisfaction instead of worry. In his hands, he held a document that would change galactic history forever. Members of the council, he began, today we vote on the most important decision in our recorded history. We are here to decide whether to grant full membership to the human species. The debate that followed was not about whether humans deserved membership. After what they had done during the Scourge War, that question had been answered. The debate was about how to integrate a species that thought so differently from everyone else. The humans have capabilities that we still do not fully understand, reported Dr. Nixara, who had spent months studying human biology and psychology. Their medical officer, Dr. Carter, has developed cures for diseases that have killed millions of our people for centuries. She uses methods that we thought were primitive, but they work better than our most advanced treatments. Scholar Vex Morin, who had once dismissed humans as impossible myths, now spoke with deep respect. Human engineering makes no logical sense, yet it achieves results that surpass our best technology. Chief Engineer Walsh has shown us how to build engines that are both more powerful and more efficient than anything we have created. Captain Murphy, now promoted to Admiral and serving as Earth's primary representative, listened to the discussion with quiet satisfaction. The journey from myth to reality had been difficult, but humanity had proven itself worthy of respect. The question before us, said Commander Veltar, is not whether humans deserve membership. The question is whether we are ready for the changes that membership will bring. Those changes were already happening throughout Council space. Human innovation centers had been established on 12 different worlds, led by Director Paul Morgan and his team of Earth's brightest scientists and engineers. These centers were revolutionizing everything from agriculture to space travel. On the agricultural world of Verdania, human farming techniques had increased crop yields by 40%. The local population, who had struggled with food shortages for generations, now had surplus crops to export to other worlds. In the Crystalline Empire, human mining methods had opened up resource deposits that the crystal beings had thought were impossible to reach. The techniques seemed crude and simple, but they worked where advanced alien technology had failed. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Mitchell had established the first joint human-alien military academy on the fortress world of Kazak Prime. Her students were learning the adaptive strategies that had proven so effective against the Scourge. The lessons were difficult for species that had known only peaceful traditions for centuries. The humans teach us to think like our enemies, explained one Kazakh student to his family. They say that to defeat evil, we must understand it completely, even if understanding it is uncomfortable. The Academy's training methods shocked many alien observers. Humans taught their students to fight without rules, to use deception and surprise, and to never give up even when defeat seemed certain. These concepts were foreign to species that had fought with honor codes for thousands of years. Dr. Frank Thompson's research into human psychological resilience had become required reading for all Council diplomats. His studies showed how humans could maintain hope and determination even in the darkest circumstances. Humans have something we call stubborn optimism, Dr. Thompson explained to a gathering of alien psychologists. When faced with impossible odds, instead of giving up, humans become more determined to find a solution. This trait had been crucial during the final battle with the Scourge. When the main alien fleet had been overwhelmed and was preparing to retreat, the humans had refused to give up. Admiral Johnson had led a desperate assault that turned the tide of the entire war. The memory of that battle still amazed the Council members. The Scourge had adapted to traditional alien tactics within hours, but they had never been able to predict human strategies. Every time they thought they understood what the humans would do next, the humans did something completely different. Marine. Sergeant Amy Foster had become a legend throughout Council space. Her boarding parties had fought through Scourge bioships in battles so fierce that most aliens could not watch the recordings without becoming sick. Yet after each battle, Foster and her Marines had shown mercy to any Scourge creatures that survived, trying to understand them rather than simply destroying them. The humans fight like demons when they must, reported one alien military observer. But they show compassion like angels when the fighting is over. The vote on human membership was called to order. One by one, each species cast their decision. The Crystalline Empire voted yes. The Morvian Federation voted yes. The Kazakh Military Council voted yes. All 7 species voted in favor of human membership. Admiral Murphy stood up as the results were announced. "We are honored to be accepted into your galactic community. We promise to work with all species to build a stronger and safer galaxy for everyone." But the real changes were already taking place in ways that no one had expected. Human cultural centers were teaching alien children about Earth's history, art, and music. Many young aliens were fascinated by human concepts like individual creativity and personal freedom. On the trade world of Nexus Prime, human merchants were revolutionizing commerce with ideas about competition and innovation that had never existed in the peaceful council economy. Some aliens were concerned about these changes, but others were excited by the new opportunities. Dr. Carter had established medical schools that taught both human and alien healing techniques. Her students were learning that combining different approaches often produced better results than using any single method. "The humans have taught us that being different is not a weakness," she explained to her alien colleagues. "Different perspectives can solve problems that no single viewpoint can handle alone." The transformation of the galaxy continued to accelerate. Human exploration ships were working with alien scientists to map new regions of space. Human engineers were collaborating with alien architects to build cities that combined the best of all species' designs. Most importantly, the concept of humans as mythical creatures had been completely replaced. Children throughout the galaxy now grew up knowing that humans were real, valuable partners in building the future. Scholar Vex Morin completed his final report on human integration with words that would be remembered for generations. The humans were never myths. They were prophecies. They showed us what we could become if we embraced change instead of fearing it. They taught us that the impossible is simply another word for the unexplored. As the council session ended and members began to leave, Admiral Murphy looked out through the great windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Earth waited for news of humanity's acceptance into the galactic community. The message that would be sent home would be simple. The humans were no longer myths, and the galaxy would never be the same. The age of human-alien cooperation had begun, and the universe was full of possibilities that none of them had ever imagined.